My name is Dave Hollenbach, the host of From Embers to Excellence, a podcast that explores the many facets of leadership from the perspectives of some amazing people. We discuss the triumphs and failures that have shaped our lives and our leadership philosophies. I've found that it isn't whether we fail that defines us, but when we do fail, how we respond. Leaders dust off the ashes and use their failures as fuel to work harder and as lessons to come back wiser and stronger, more resilient, more determined, and more committed to excellence. Today, I've got the distinct honor of interviewing Lafontant Dorival, who is a Miami-Dade Fire Rescue firefighter. He's a 14-year veteran of the fire service and has spent the majority of his career in Miami-Dade's 5th Battalion at Firehouse 7. Currently, he's on Charlie Tour serving as the dedicated nozzleman. He was recruited to join Miami-Dade Fire Rescue's recruit training program as an instructor, it's interesting because I became aware of Lafontant through my good friend Mike Yetter, who is a captain with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. He was actually one of my first guests on the show.
Remember that show?
And it's interesting because, he's such a smart ass and he's got like this sense of humor, but he's just his passion for the job and his professionalism and his dedication to the people that he leads it's something that I was trying to capture in these interviews. And for whatever reason, I don't feel like either one of the interviews, you could really get a sense of how funny he is. So, but
yeah, he is hilarious, man. Yeah. Some of the things he says, you're just like, what? And
yeah,
like, I can't believe you just said that in the middle of this meeting or something like that. Like,
but he is, he's the main reason. Like, so he sent me a couple of videos of you and like you training recruits and like, just hyping them up. And it's just awesome I think it's somewhat unique that, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue has firefighters training firefighters, whereas I think a lot of departments use officers, whether they're lieutenants or captains, to train new recruits. But I think
coolest thing about that, not to cut you off, is just that the coolest thing about that with firefighters training firefighters is when we go out, we'll be in operations and we'll be the same level. The only thing that separates us is our level of experience.
Yeah.
But it's so cool to get that type of training from a fireman. I mean, we're the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So some officers come in, they're too badge heavy, and they're not teaching it the right way, man. So, I mean, I just want to teach from my heart everything I got. So,
well, I know Mike has just, I've met people all over the country in the fire service that know Mike and have a great deal of respect for him. And, I know him, I know his character, and I know his standard. And for him to rant and rave about you speaks volumes. And I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now. And I really want to just like dig right in. But something else that I want to touch on, just like, it's not like they just said, hey, Dorival, come down to training because
oh no, yeah, they recruit you. Yeah, they and everybody has to have a vote, and they have to vote you in.
And so, like, it's a big deal for someone to get state of Florida instructor 2 and live fire training instructor. Well, and then not only that, but you're a tech rescue guy. Um, do you serve on Task Force 1?
Not yet.
Not yet. You're
Soon. They got
working.
they got a new recruitment coming up, and I'm hoping at 14 or 15 years I can get on the team, man. I can't wait, man. That's one of my dreams. That's actually been one of my main goals since I got on, to get on that team. Like, to hear about earthquakes in Haiti. You know, my mom and dad from Haiti. It's like, man, send me, man. And honestly, anywhere. I just want to go. I want to be the one that goes, man. Like, nobody wants to stay home. Well, if you're a fireman, that's how you think. Send me, you know?
Well, one more thing that I want to touch on, and we'll come back to it before we really dive in. But Mike let me know that you developed this training program, and you will be teaching it for the first time outside of Miami-Dade at the Orlando Fire Conference this year.
Right.
And it's titled The Way of the Nozzle. I'll have you talk a little bit about that training program a little bit later, but like, I'm curious, like, did you grow up in Miami? Are you a native Floridian?
I grew up in Miami, Florida. Miami, Florida, poor.
Well,
But yeah, I grew up in Miami. But I always seen red trucks. Never seen a lot of black firemen. You know what I mean? Growing up, but I did always see the trucks, man. Out of high school, I applied straight away. Highly in Miami-Dade, I applied, and I never got a call, so I went up to college for a little bit.
where'd you go to college?
Tallahassee Community College.
All right.
Then I came back down.
Why'd you go to Tallahassee?
Following friends.
Oh, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your life growing up. You said your mom and dad they came from Haiti.
Yeah.
And so they came to Miami. And what did your mom and dad do when you were growing up?
Man, that's crazy, because I just spoke at this high school, and I was telling them about my mom. Actually, I'm going to be a speaker at the Orlando, Florida Fire Conference. I'm going to be give me a 20-minute block to speak. And in that, when I do speak, I plan on speaking about just like you, a book I want to write called Inspiration Isn't Enough. So when I speak about that, it's basically talking about my mom, about where my inspiration came from. And from that, it drove me to be motivated. My mom would walk 1.5 miles to catch 2 buses to get to work, and 2 buses back home, and then walk another 1.5 miles and come home and cook dinner and clean. And she'd do it again the next day. So I used to always say, how could you not be motivated by that? By someone who never made more than $17,000 a year. You know, so my inspiration and my motivation comes from my mother. When I was my dad, we don't have too much of a relationship, but my dad was there. He was present. He was in the home. We didn't talk much. He didn't talk too much to us, but he was there. But my mom was able to, I don't know how, man. I don't know. I always ask my sister, like, how in the hell, like, if she never made $17,000, how do we have this house? She still has the house. It's actually, this year, be paid off in 3 months. I'm still in shock, man, that she was able to do this for us, to have 4 kids, college graduates, man. That, you know, that's not something that always happened. So
you have 3 siblings?
Yeah, my dad has a total of 12. So, but my mom only had 4. but we all consider us brothers and sisters, regardless of different moms. My brother, he's like a metal developer. He makes metal for like aviation corporations and other big corporations. My older sister, she's a nurse anesthetist. She's able to give like shots or prescriptions. My younger sister works for downtown Miami-Dade. She's in the FRS system. She's doing pretty good for herself.
I don't know. I don't see the connection between the fire service. Like what really drove you to?
I wanted to go to the military. And when I was about to graduate high school, I'm like, all right, man, my brother had gotten arrested, went to prison. And I was like, man, I'm gonna go to the military because something's, I don't know what's gonna happen to me. And I just wanted to, but my mom didn't want me to go. So I was like, there's nothing else. Like military. I don't want to be a cop. I'll become a fireman. And my cousin got hired with Port St. Lucie Fire while we were all in the process, and he got hired, and he's just telling me everything. So I'm like, man, I can't wait. Like, I'm just like salivating over everything that he's doing. Like, he's telling me all the jobs he's getting, and him, at the station. And I knew I wanted it. And I just wanted to be a fireman, man.
Let's go back to like the beginning of your career. Who were some of your early influences that kind of, because from what Mike has told me and really seeing like how motivated and driven you are in your videos and stuff, like I know part of that comes from your mother's influence, but there's a passion that it's not as common as a lot of people might think, in the fire service. Because when you think of the fire service, firefighters like always like jam up, gung ho, but that's really not the case.
Man, to nail it down to one thing will be kind of crazy, but I remember even telling these high schoolers what saved me and what drove me to be determined. I was determined from doing things I shouldn't be doing on the streets to trying to take control of my life. My son was born. When my son was born and I had gone to minimum standards, that was it. He saved my life. From there on, I knew that one, I had to walk the straight and narrow. You can't make any turns, and it's going to be bad. I used to work for this place called Day Labor when I was in minimum standards, and I didn't have a vehicle or nothing like that. But my wife now, she was my girlfriend at the time. She would drop me off. Some days you can make $50. Some days you can make $20. Some days you can't get a job. And I remember how humbling that was. And I remember how humbling it was to catch a bus. But, I was used to it. But just the experience of not having enough money or not having enough of anything and not allowing myself to be broken and just to stay the course. By the time I got onto the department, I was still poor shit, man. Still trying to pay things back. So whatever I was making was not really, for me, I was not really making anything. And just, trying to make ends meet was pretty rough the first 2-3 years. And finally, by the time I got on my feet, I looked and I realized, man, look what you've been through, man. And just that realization, it hit me all at once. Yeah, I can't believe you didn't break, like, and me not breaking was a testament to who I was becoming. And I knew I had a voice. I really knew I had a voice to motivate and uplift. So why not share it? So when I see some recruits or even the guys at the station, they're low, and give them a little something, man. We're all gonna die. I mean, we're all gonna hurt. It's gonna be rough. We're gonna go in there. We might get burnt. It's gonna be hard. We'll do it together. And it's gonna suck. We know that though, man. So
I'm not real familiar with the neighborhoods and stuff in Miami, but people listening will probably some of the people that are listening will recognize, like, where did you grow up? What part of town?
I was born in Little Haiti. Actually, I was born in a taxi cab, if you want to be. I always tell people that. But yeah, I was born in Little Haiti. From the homes, we lost a lot of homes. We moved a lot of apartments, North Miami, Liberty City, rough areas.
You talked a little bit about your son. You've got 4 boys, right? And
Correct, yeah.
How long have you been married now?
Shoot, we've been together 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Not easy, especially like, well, the firefighters are always screwing shit up with their marriages.
Trust me, man. The last thing I want is a divorce. I told her, I said, man, I didn't get married to get a divorce, man. Let's work this out. But nah, she's a real good person, man. She's a teacher.
Nice.
Most firemen seem to get teachers
or nurses,
and the occasional cop.
Got a buddy.
Crazies.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about really what led you to develop this program that you're teaching, the Way of the Nozzle. Mm-hmm. Well, first, why don't you tell us what this program entails, and then really how you've developed it over time and what inspired you to actually do it.
Man, so when I got to recruit training, one of the things Yetta would always say is, leave it better than you found it. I'm pretty sure you've heard that before, from being in the military to everywhere in life. And that one thing stuck with me. I could never stop trying every class. I'm like, what can I do better? What can I do better? From the RIC program to the dressing the tools to creating all types of classes for the program. I could go on and on, from the paying love to the water can, stuff that wasn't in the program, in the curriculum. I'm vamping up our RIC program to go do a whole real drill, a Pittsburgh drill, building props. So I remember just how.
For those that aren't in the fire service, what's the Pittsburgh drill?
Pittsburgh drill is a drill based on rapid intervention techniques, teams to perform a rescue on one of our down members. And you go through about 3 obstacles. You follow a hose line, get to the end of the hose line, and you found a down fireman, and you have to get him out the same way you came in. Not easy. So it's not an easy task. The way the RIC team is supposed to work is the first team is supposed to go there, package them, and then the second team is supposed to go in and take them out. But even then, I mean, from learning from what I know now, from RIT team to firefighter survival probably outweighs the RIT team every time, just because the RIT teams has 6% probability of saving them. Until, the intel shows, the data shows, the crews inside have a better chance of saving the ones that they're around. So, but we still got to make sure we train our firemen about RIT. But I feel like focusing more on firefighter survival 2 to 3 times a year would be best. You could save yourself and your brothers and sisters around you.
And what are some of the obstacles that you utilize when you're doing the Pittsburgh drill?
In the Pittsburgh drill, you have an up and over, which is like a triangular object. You go up and over that. We have a stud, 16 on 16 on center for the studs, like a wall. If you breach the wall, whereas drywall, you breach the wall and you go through that. And then you have a coffin box, which is a 2 foot by 2 foot opening, 8 feet in length. And you got to get through that with all your full firefighter ensemble, and with the package fireman. And you got to get him through with all your members. And one of the things we do stress on with that is radio communication and always getting back to command on where your air status is with all your members with the lowest air status. So we try to harp on that. One of the things we do grade the recruits on is getting to the down firemen and getting them on air. Even though they're out of air, they can work their way out. But at least we got to our brother, sister, packaged them, got them on air, let them know, hey, reassured them, and we can get them out, hopefully, with another team.
And you're doing this drill for time, the more efficient.
Yeah, 20 minutes is the time that you have allotted, but most of them, I mean, we've had good turnout. We've done it in 13 minutes. Some, I mean, just don't they fail, but it's all on you. Just like 55 Fire says, can you, or you, what does it says? Do you want you saving you? You know, I mean, we signed up for this job. Are you physically fit to perform this job or the task that it entails? So, I mean, some of them are. So some of them are not. And it's why it's eye opener. For real, do that drill, and then you're going to be like, wow, you know, I let you down. No, you didn't let me down. You let that guy inside down.
That's part of your story leading up to developing this program.
Oh, yeah. So those are just some of the things I brought to the table. I mean, just to change the curriculum around. And so they let me teach inch and 3/4 the second class. The second class I taught inch and 3/4, and I'm in love with hose management. You know, hose management, communications, working corners, occupying space and understanding how the workspace is based on minimum manning and stuff like that. But we never had time for a true nozzle discipline. We never had time. The curriculum was so tight, there were never windows. It was just, let's hit this. And our program is so performance objective driven. And man, I wish there was like a way to ask the department for 4 extra weeks. Nobody wants to be in there for like more than they have to, but we found a way to squeeze in a week that we call advanced week. So with that week, we were able to squeeze in advanced skills for certain things that we do on the fire ground. So we have an advanced skill station for ladders, advanced skill stations for inch and 3/4. And we call those, that whole week is called advanced week. So my day with inch and 3/4 is called the Way of the Nozzle, which is what I titled it. So the Way of the Nozzle was basically built on, firstly, nozzle discipline and respect to the fire attack team, from the deployment to a lot of things that they're doing around the country that might be beneficial to you, that you might see out in our department that we're not showing you here because of the time. So because of time constraints, we're not able to show them more advanced deployments and other tactics that some officers use. So what I did, I recruited like-minded individuals that are engaged like me to do certain skill stations, from hoisting hose up to a 3rd floor balcony to having all your hose there with you at front of the door, but neatly in an efficient efficiently and less time consuming, and just how to properly man that line by yourself. I always let them know you might be on that line for yourself for a little bit. You got to be able to man that line for a little while. I'm going to show you how. I'm going to show you how to move and flow with the line, and why you move and flow with the line. In like a warehouse or something, if it keeps rearing its head, you have to move and flow. And the best thing I thought we brought out of it was the doorman, because I have a lot of people telling me, hey, what do you do as a doorman? What do you do? And just that was like, that's it right there. So from the nozzle to the door, we pay tribute to the fire attack team, from the backup guy. And back with his shirt, it says the doorman, the eyes and the muscle. So that guy's the most taxed individual on the fire ground. If he's not, you guys are doing something wrong. And if you are not opening up that line and just taking the assault by the thermal heat that's above you, you're not trained. So we try to talk about this at the skill stations, a 2-hour skill station block. We try to cover as much as we can, and hopefully they remember some things and take the class again and they'll remember something else.
You're talking about the doorman and how important they are. Why is that individual so important?
That individual will make or break the assignment, man. I mean, that guy, with knowing that your team's inside and they're counting on you to move hose from outside to in, they're counting on you to make sure you can check conditions if the smoke is changing. They can make a significant difference by, if they don't notice it inside, you can kind of pull the hose line back to let them know, hey, we got to get you guys out, or you guys have to have some type of form of communication. Not to go up on the line, but we also talk about nonverbal comms. So with the doorman there pulling the hose line will be another nonverbal comm that everybody should be aware of. If he's pulling on that line, that's a message he's trying to send you, that it might be an urgent or something you might have to get out without having to notify the driver to sound the horn or something like that. This is urgent. And the officer talking through the nozzle firefighter through the helmet by taps on the helmet for direction to direct the stream somewhere. But that doorman, he can see it all, because they don't understand. Sometimes you won't see the flames licking above your head, but he can if it's licking above the door where he's at, unless he's inside of the structure. But he can also control the door itself, at least by keeping it a gap as much as the hose line and moving some hose in. But I just feel like that guy's probably outside, after the nozzle person, he's probably the second most important person on that line.
And what's interesting so a lot of people listening may not be real familiar. Maybe they're aspiring firefighters, but when you talk about communication on the fire ground, a lot of it is nonverbal, because when everything is being established, everybody's roles on that scene, you've got the incident commander talking with the officers, giving direction, and people giving information back to the incident commander. There's a lot of radio traffic, so you're not always going to be able to just communicate over the radio.
Correct.
And that can be frustrating if you don't have an awareness of how to communicate non-verbally, like what you're saying, taps on the helmet.
You got to train. That's the thing too. Some people don't train. You get a new member at the station, don't expect him to know, if you tap me on the helmet to the right, that I'm going to turn the nozzle to the right. He's going to be like, what do you want? Or shut the line down. So you got to train. If you don't train with your personnel, especially when a new bid period comes, a bid period is just when new members come into a new station or something like that. But you got to train.
I'd like to talk a lot about leadership on this show, and it's always beneficial to get different perspectives. And as a firefighter, a senior firefighter, can you maybe talk to really your philosophy on leadership and how your role as a leader on the team plays out over time?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as far as leadership goes, first and foremost, my officer, I'd like him to be a strong individual, as far as strong-minded, smart, not making decisions based on whatever it's in a book just because it's in a book. Sometimes the scene will dictate what we do, and it might not be written down. So smart and tactful, and also trusting your guys. But the way you build trust with your members is on the fire ground. So we got to go out, we got to train, and we'll show you that we can perform up to task, or whatever you think we have to be performing at. As far as trusting us, I mean, he doesn't really, from working with us day in and day out, he can expect us to lead in his absence. So if he's not there and he's doing something out back, or he's outside command and it's just me and the doorman, he can expect us to perform the task without fail, just by doing our jobs. And whenever I have a junior member on the truck, it's not just a regular truck checkout. It's more detailed as far as assignments goes, nozzle placement, what side of the baffle it's on, his job as far as the way we load it from the different deployments he hasn't seen. So it's more work for me to do that, but I'd rather cover that with him. If something happens at 6 a.m. or something, and all of a sudden I'm like, you did this before? That's on me. So my officer should be able to trust me with that information, that he doesn't have to divulge to him just because he's the officer. He can trust his senior guys.
And so what I'm hearing is, as the senior firefighter on a crew, you got to own that position. You got to have ownership of that truck, of the equipment, and take responsibility for the junior guys. Like, you have an opportunity to teach somebody something, to pass on lessons that you've learned. And to me, leadership boiled down, it's all about adding value to the people that you're leading. And it doesn't matter what position you're in. If you have the ability to add value to somebody and you don't take that opportunity, you kind of drop the ball. And I like that mindset that you have of taking ownership. And so, yeah, no, man, that's freaking cool. So what advice would you give to an aspiring firefighter or a recruit firefighter? How should they approach this early time of their career?
Everything I've done is always head down, not physically head down, but humble and humble on your approach. You may know something, but that doesn't mean you won't hear it again and again. So remain humble, remain disciplined as far as you know what the end goal is. So don't come up showing like sloppy or something. I'll say something else, but don't come up showing up out of shape. I mean, that's kind of a slap in the face for something you said you wanted so bad, and you came and you showed up like this. Just remember that everything that we do, there's a reason. It's organized chaos. When you cross that line, I always tell them, you lost your first name. Your first name is recruit. You have to earn it. You'll have to earn that back. And at the end, you'll get a Maltese cross in your left breast. It doesn't mean nothing. By the time you get out there, we'll judge you for who you are and your character and operations, because sometimes it just, they put on a show for you while they're in recruit training. And then when they get out there, they become the person they're really supposed to be after their year of probation, and you find out who they truly are. But sometimes you can tell, but I always tell them, man, go with your heart, stay humble, and just eager to learn, man, but come in shape, please.
I think that a lot of times people get complacent, after they got a couple of years under their belt, they start slacking off and get soft. And with this job, I mean, we were talking a little bit before we started recording, our physical health plays such a big role in our mental health.
Yeah.
And this job, firefighting, going and seeing all the different ways that other people, nature, machinery, all the different ways that can like rip apart a body. That stuff stays with you. And if your body isn't healthy, the chemicals that are released, and when you're stressed, because that's a stress response, those chemicals that are released when you're exposed to traumatic events, they can play a role in cancers and heart disease and all kinds of different diseases that
Right.
you'll see a higher incident or a higher incidence of in the fire service. And it's sad.
We did a drill the other day where we had to a high rise drill. It was not really a drill where we deployed hose and stuff like that. It was everybody just make it up to 18th floor. So everybody put everything on their back. You could see some of the members are like, you know, some of them are like, "Are we really doing this?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're actually doing this." So every time I'm there, right there, I was like, "Man, please don't come up with no crazy stuff." I'm like, "Nah, we're not doing nothing crazy." I always try to do something every shift. So I'm just like, we're just going up. So, you know, the captain actually set it up, and we packed it all our stuff, heavy as heck. You know, it's gonna be heavy. It's a lot of stuff. We start going up, and sure enough, you can start seeing it. Some of us were not ready. So by the time we get to the 5th floor, we lose somebody, 6th, 7th, lose somebody else. And then by the time we all made it up there, not all of us, the people who made it up there, I mean, you know, we could see that this was not going to be a successful job if we had to do this job. So we went back down, and we took all off our ensemble, took everything off. And I was like, you know, just a little something to give them. I said, "Man, we are not ready to save these people on the 18th floor. We're not ready to save these people on the 7th floor. We're not ready. Because if something happened and they're relying on us, you're going to tell me all of a sudden you're going to get the juice to get up there? We're not ready." So, and that was an eye opener for them, for everyone, for me, because not just because I got up there, but I can't do it 3 guys or 2 guys. We need everybody. It can't just be one truck making it. We need everybody to do this. So I decided Sundays were just going to be days we went up to the 18th floor. And they don't really like that. But so.
But I mean, just the act of getting all the gear up there to the 18th floor,
It's a lot.
that's just the first step.
That's it.
Because then you got to go to work.
Yeah. So in this, if you noticed, I had this thing I created, my For Them sticker. It says honor the oath and hold true to the mission for them. So that's been my message for a while, because it's not about us. When you took that oath and you said that mission statement, you signed it away. Every 3rd day when you show up, you signed your whatever it is you come to work for. It's not a job anymore. It's for them. It's for the people that are waiting for us. They're waiting to be saved. So they need us. They require us to show up in shape and ready to do this job. If we show up and we can't get up to whatever floor it is, we can't do nothing, man. I mean, you know how many lives would be up there screaming for us? So it's important. It's imperative, man, that we train. We train to fail, but, you know, through failure, man, we'll learn where our shortcomings are. We get better.
So say that one more time. For them.
Oh, for them, I mean, we honor the oath, hold true to the mission for them. That's my sticker.
So do you sell those stickers?
Yeah.
Do you have a website that you sell them on, or
Nah,
just around the station?
It's all part of the Way of The Nozzle stuff.
Oh, nice.
Separate stuff for that. It's been making waves, man. Anything I always try to do, or hashtag, when it used to be a pound sign. I don't know why they changed it to a hashtag. Like, it used to be a pound sign, like when I was growing up. So I was like, pound sign for them. But yeah, man.
You've got a page set up where people can follow you and your program, The Way of the Nozzle, right?
Correct. Yeah.
What platform is that? And
that's Instagram.
Instagram.
I'll send you the link.
All right. Yeah, I'll have that in the show notes. And it's just the way of the nozzle.
Well, there's underscores and stuff like that. That's just a line at the bottom. They separate words with now. It's called an underscore.
Okay. It'll be easier for the old guys to just click on the
Yeah,
link in the show notes, right?
yeah, man.
Can you talk a little bit about the men and women that have influenced your career? Some that have, because I know that I've got certain individuals throughout my career that have had an impact, whether it's how I trained or my mindset on leadership or whatever. But like, there's different people that came in and out of my life throughout my career that really had big impacts on me.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, like, if you'd be willing to talk about some of
Yeah, a lot of
the.
times, something that gets me, right, is I'm an avid reader, right? So a lot of times it's just smart people, man. I'm infatuated with smart people. So, like in minimum standards, I remember Captain Stephen Martell. And I always remember this line every time I see him. I'm like, man, that was like 18 years ago. Well, maybe 19 or something. I don't know, 19 years ago. And I remember his line was, if you think you're right, you are. Or if you think you're wrong, or something like that. Whatever the line was, it's a pretty famous quote. I just quoted it wrong. I butchered it. But but I always remember that. And I remember when going home thinking about that, like, man, it makes so much sense. And he just that motivated me a lot too, just listening to that. Outside of that, when I got to the 5th Battalion, and like in my second year, I knew this is where I belonged. I knew I belonged in the 5th Battalion. From Station 2 and Station 7, though, that was it. There were some members there that were just, man, this guy, Ralph Carrillo, Billy McCann, these guys were just, you couldn't stop them, and they're older than you. And you're like, man, I want to sit down, but he doesn't want to sit down. And for the life of me, one day I wanted to work as hard as Billy. 7 o'clock came, like, Billy, bro, we have to sit down, bro. Like, and he was like, no, go in there, Dorival. I was like, I'm going inside. And he just still to tell today, he's 20 plus years on. I mean, I've never seen anyone outwork this guy. It still amazes me. I had a lieutenant that got demoted. I'm not going to mention his name because, yeah, I mean, you know what? His name's Eli Cadet. I mean, he has to be over that story already. And he would train, he would give us a whole bunch of drills and scenarios, and we had so many fires. And he was such a smart fireman. He was so smart. And I just remember how impressed I was every time we had a fire and every time he showed me something. And I was like, man, that's crazy. And I'm like, man, I want to be like this guy. Like, I want to be smart, like, I want to, I would ask him all types of questions. So how do you know, what do? You read something? Or he's like, no, you just train. So I'm like, man, I need to train. So I'm like hyped up. I'm like, so what are we doing? Like, we're not training today. Like, so how do I become like you? you know? And I had a firefighter, Christopher Bryant. Christopher Bryant was he's at Station 7 on B shift, and he just leads like a real senior man. Every time I give a lecture to my recruits or anything that pertains to leadership or ownership of the truck, as the senior man at the back of the rig, the tailboard, I always make mention of him because that guy, not that he took my hand, but he guided me in a way just by just me watching him work. So me watching him work was an honor. Was an honor. Still is, man. I always tell this day I'm humbled by just him, guiding me, man. And what was crazy was when I got back from training, after I came back to the house, Chris had worked on a shift with me, and he came to me and he said, let me ask you a question. This probie came and asked me, what does a doorman do? And I was like, you told her, right? He's like, no, I really didn't know what to tell her. I was hoping you could tell me. And that took me aback. I was like, wow, one of the guys that I look up to is asking me a question, which was awesome because I was like, Chris actually knows a good amount of stuff. He knows the things to do, but he didn't think of it the way I was about to tell him, you know? And for him to ask me was like, I can't believe this. Have I come full circle? And then, like, and I'm just like, wow, this is
I think there's a lesson in that, just that right there.
nuts. It was crazy to me, man.
Because no matter how high up you are, the
Yeah,
respect that you command, you've always got to maintain that humility, being humble. Like you don't always have the answer,
yeah.
and be humble enough to ask the person that does.
Which first I thought he was playing with me. So I was like, get out of here, Chris, man. Leave me alone, bro. He's like, no, serious, man. And he was like, and we just both started laughing. And so I was like, all right, man. So I got my gear out, took all the wedges out, and we did and it became a whole 2 hour ordeal. And it was awesome to be able to finally give him something. So I was like, man, it only took me 14 years. But finally, when I got to training, man, I always knew I looked up to Yetter, and just to be around him was awesome all the time because I knew he was going to say something that I was like, man, I'm gonna write that down. He always says something that I'm like, damn, Cap, like, wow, give me a second, let me write that down. And he always captures me. And with his love for fire chemistry and what's happening inside of the structure became my love too because I wanted to understand that. So I started reading the books that he read, and I just started to get more involved in that. And I looked up to him for that, man, and that was just somebody that I respect that guy through the. I mean, he could tell you, man, because she's like,
Well, I actually wrote a little bit about him in my book. Mike and I met in EMT school when he first got out of the Army, and we were the top of the class, and we were the class clowns. So
yeah,
it was me, him, and another guy that we just made straight A's, but we were always cutting up in class. It was just, and we made the instructors laugh.
oh yeah,
Well, Mike and I, we hung out all the time, and we ended up moving in together. And he got hired on with Miami-Dade, and at the time, we were living in Central Florida. So he moved, and he was like, man, you got to come down here. There's no spots on the department, but they got openings in the sheriff's office. You can do that and then cross over. And I'm like, there's no freaking way. You're crazy, man. So anyways, he had already had standards. I didn't. So I did EMT school first and then went to standards, and he did standards first and then went to EMT school. So we met there, and our careers have kind of paralleled, even though he was, like a year ahead of me, getting hired, maybe a little bit more. I think he got hired in either 97 or 98, and I got
he has
hired.
24 years on.
Yeah. And I got hired on with Orange County in 99. I was working as a reserve or a volunteer for Martin County when I was going through standards and all that stuff. Like at that time, they would do training at the station. And then once you like had a certain level of training, you could get bunker gear and be allowed to fight fire. And then the fact that I was going to standards made me kind of an asset, even though I didn't know shit.
Yeah.
But so like the first, couple of years of me being in the fire service, I was a reserve or volunteer, and reserve because it's a paid department, and they had at that time, I think they had one volunteer fire station that covered Jensen Beach, and that's where I was at.
Mhm.
But anyways, when I got on with the department, we did our thing, and we'd share stories and all that. And then he got promoted to lieutenant, and it was a couple of years later. Like I actually think that he might have been a captain by the time I made lieutenant, because like I got promoted to engineer. Orange County has engineers. It's an actual rank. Because like you guys, you bid for the spot, but you still
Correct.
hold
We
like,
don't, yeah. There's no outside of officer positions. Those are the only promotions.
so I did engineer, then I made lieutenant. And when I made lieutenant, I had already been riding as officer. Like when my lieutenant was on vacation and stuff, I would ride as officer. I got all my officer classes and all that stuff. And that goes to training for the position above you and teaching the person junior to you your current position. If you have that mindset throughout your career, you'll constantly grow, right?
Correct.
Well, when I made lieutenant, I went to a crew that was established, and it was on the other side of the county. And I didn't know any of those guys, and actually my engineer was a woman who had spent almost her entire career in special operations. So her wealth of knowledge was insane. And then I had all these senior firefighters that they had already established like their bond.
Correct. Yeah.
And then here I am coming in, and I'm like, oh shit. And so, I'm not gonna talk to anybody around there about my fears. So I talked to Yetter, and he's like, oh man, you got to read this book. And then he just starts rattling off books that I need to read. And I read them, and like we'd have conversations about leadership, leading under pressure, in situations that you can't prepare for.
Correct.
And to be able to lead people that have more experience than you
that is something, man. I always think about that.
Well, the book so there's two books that I read that I still pull from today. It's Your Ship by Captain Abrashoff, and First In, Last Out by Sulka. So Captain Abrashoff, he was the captain of a ship in the Navy. So that's where it comes from. It's your ship.
Correct.
And that was his mindset. That was how he led, is he like let the crew know that it was their ship and they should have pride in that. And if they had ideas, they could bring it to him. Like he had this way of communicating with the crew from the top to the bottom. And he instilled that mindset of, I want every person on board ship to train for the position above them, and I want them teaching their position to the person below them. And that does so much for a team.
Yeah, because if somebody calls out sick or something. or somebody goes down, we could just move pieces.
Right. But it also instills a level of trust.
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
And that's what solid teams are built on. When you can trust everybody on that crew to do their job and to be looking out for you, because everybody knows everybody's job.
And that's important on the fire ground.
Yeah.
You got to know what that guy's doing. So everyone should know everyone's job. That way, you know what's the next step.
Yeah. And then that the first in, last out is a level of ownership that if you're leading, you're the first one going in, and you're not leaving until you get everybody out or the job is done, and so that mindset is when your crew knows that they are your priority, everything comes together so much better. And so that's just some of the stuff that Mike and I would talk about, over the phone, or, whenever we would visit one another.
And I know he could get lost in a lot of things. When you guys are talking, I know his mind is going 1,000 places, man.
But his influence, I think he downplays a lot. He's very humble, but he's influenced people across the country.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find that as you grow in your career, you'll never know how many people's lives you've impacted. Reggie McKnight, that guy, that's another guy that Mike introduced me to, said, man, you got to talk to this guy. And I did. And being able to share, perspectives and how those perspectives developed over time, what drives somebody, I don't know, to me, that is one of the most interesting things about leading people, is figuring out what drives them, and really what drives leaders.
Yeah.
Good leaders. And if you think about it, and you're a reader, the thing that drives all great leaders is their desire to improve everything around them, to add value to those people that they're leading, to leave it better than when you got there.
Facts, man. That was strong. Right? That was strong right there. I like that, man. The impact that others make on you to better yourself as a leader and the person, man. I always tell I can't thank him enough. I always tell him, but just like you said, he's extremely humble. Those are two of my mentors, Reginald McKnight and Mike Yetter. I have other mentors as well, but those two stick out.
So let me pose this question to you. Out of the people that you work with and have worked with, who do you think views you as a mentor?
Views me as a mentor? I have a few. There's a lot of people who's actually told me if they could shadow me a lot of times. Marin Lopez to Vivian Martinez to, there's a whole bunch of names that can rattle off.
But how does that make you feel?
Just, I don't want to claim like I'm somebody, because I'm not even there yet. So,
but it's
humbling, man.
Right.
Yeah, it's humbling. It's a humbling experience to know that some of my words have impacted people across the country. I mean, I've seen this guy send me a footage of them playing one of my speeches, and there was like 50 people around a speaker. I was like, holy crap. It was 50 firemen around a speaker, and I was like, no way. And they're listening to it. I'm like, this is crazy. And I'm just thinking like, wow. And I remember Reggie saying, because he told me the speech I gave the day before, they didn't record it. He said that speech was better. And the speech that they played, that they were playing on the internet, he was like, where the hell did that come from? I'm like, I don't know, man. Sometimes it feels like in the morning I get to work and I have to say it, I have to give a message. And that was so crazy to see. And I'm gonna go see those guys that had the speaker, and I'm gonna go see them in March. I have a ticket to go check them out.
Where's
they
that
invited
at?
me at Georgia.
Nice.
They invited me up there, the Bearers of the Oath. And I'm like, I'm psyched. I'm like, man, I want to see these brothers I got across the country.
That's cool as shit, man.
Yeah, man, I got invitations to just because of those videos from Massachusetts, Indiana, North Carolina. It's crazy. I can't believe how words can impact somebody. But you can believe that because if you're a lover of books and words, you understand. So when you read a book, you put yourselves in the author's vision or the main character's story, and you become that. You become those words. So when I say my words of motivation, I'd hope that you feel them and they encourage you.
If you could pick an audience to hear you talk about what you're most passionate about, who would that audience be and what would you say?
Wow, that is a tricky question. The audience. I mean, I would hope that the audience understands what I'm trying to reinforce inside of their minds. I want you to fall in love with the job again. So the best way I know to do it is by preaching to you why I'm inspired and why I'm motivated. So if I can motivate you and tell you how much I love this job and tell you why you do this job and why it's no longer for us or for the dollar that you make, it's for those people calling your name. You know, when I said that those words in one of my speeches to the graduation class, I said, they're waiting for you at the windows, behind the doors, down the smoke-filled hallways. They're waiting to be saved. It's for them. It's no longer for us. So the people that I truly want to speak to is just the people who are receptive to this message and understand that 5-10 years down the road, don't lose love for the job, because those people that are waiting for us, they haven't lost hope in the fire service. So until you got 30 years and you're ready to get out of here, you got to keep going.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time to let this interview happen and just share some of your influences and some of your passion with the audience. Thank you for listening to this episode of From Embers to Excellence. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on your favorite podcast platform and visit hollenbachleadership.com for additional content. My goal is and always will be to add value to as many people as possible. So if I can be of any assistance to you or someone you know, please connect with me via email or on one of my social media accounts, linked on the homepage of my website. Remember, our failures don't define us unless we let them, and the only true measure of a leader is the success of their team.